Hello everyone, my name is Phoebe and welcome to Finding Your Way as a Woman in STEM. This is going to be an open discussion with my peers as a female undergraduate in STEM. So just to introduce us all, we were all finalists of the Female Undergraduate of the Year competition last year. And now I'm going to go around and just give you guys some names and some faces. So first, Eunice, please take it away.
Hi, my name is Eunice. I'm studying aerospace engineering at the University of Liverpool. And an interesting fact about me is that I'm training to become a private pilot.
Hello everyone, my name is Aurora. I am a second year mathematician. I'm originally from Norway. And I guess a fun fact about me is that I play the baritone in brass band.
Hi, I'm Anjali. I do material science and engineering, and I'm in my second year. I guess a fun fact about me is that I love martial arts, especially a Japanese one called Aikido.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel. I'm a second year mechanical engineering with German student at the University of Sheffield. And I guess a fun fact about me is next year I'll be doing a year abroad in Germany.
And hi everyone, my name's Phoebe and I'll be taking care of you all today. And I'm a fourth year mechanical engineer at the University of Nottingham. And something you might not expect about me is that I do modelling part-time on the side, which is really fun, but engineering is really my first passion. So let's crack on. So you can see in the bottom right, you should all have access to a poll feature, and it'd be really great if you could fill out the first poll question, which is at what stage of your education are you at? We're just kind of curious to know like what part of your education you are, like are you younger, older, university? Are you a bit like us, maybe in third, fourth, first year? Yeah, so that'd be great to know. I can see if I can see your answers. Let's see. And then the next one we want you to ask is, what subject do you study? So that's quite interesting. There you go. Let's see, I think I have to put it on. Anyway. So the first thing I'd like to ask Rachel as part of this open discussion is, what are your positives of being a woman in STEM and how does this empower you?
Thanks, Phoebe. So I found that there is actually way more positive than I expected going into such a male-dominated industry. I really, like, at school, everyone's like, oh, do you really want to go into that? It's going to be difficult. Like, are you sure that's what you want to do? And, like, one of the positives I found is that by being a woman, and maybe because of my crazy hair, I really stand out more. So when I go to interviews and assessment centres, people remember me. And I found that to be so helpful because just because they remember me, they're more likely to, when they're having to decide who to select and who to say sorry to, like, just because of do it's so much easier just having that face to the name. So I would really recommend for anyone who's got any interviews coming up, or especially if they're online, to try and have like a bright background like we've all got today, because it just helps you stand out on the screen. Because I know Phoebe always comments like when I'm at home I always have a blue background just on my wall at home, and it really helps you stand out, especially with like all the little boxes and as we've all got so used to on like Zoom. And I think another thing which I've found really nice about being in such a male-dominated industry is the actual feeling of community within all the women, because I feel like we've really come together to help each other out and to support each other, and it's just so lovely, that camaraderie. And in terms of being empowered, I would say that by looking different and standing out, it's given me an opportunity to really prove myself academically, which I wouldn't have necessarily realized at the start, that by being different has given me that opportunity. Yeah, I
definitely agree, like completely. And something else I always think about is like being a woman gives you such diversity of thought. There are things that I think about that my male colleagues would never think about, and also the way I approach problems, the way I care about people's emotions in a group situation. I think we bring such a unique aspect to a team, which in fact, like, that's why being a part of engineering is so important, because we add something which in the first place people are just so lacking. So thank you, Rachel. I thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I totally echo that, Phoebe. Like, in terms of the like companies are so aware these days of how important it is to have a diverse team. So they're really like seeing the benefits women can bring. So another question for the audience was, do you have a mentor? And if not, are you interested in getting one?
I can see on the polls that 73% of people don't have a mentor and are keen to find one. So just a couple tips that I'd like to share for getting a mentor. And I know Eunice has something to add later on to this, but there are lots of schemes online. If you go out and find inter-mentoring scheme across the UK, there's definitely loads of things that will come up. And there's especially quite a few for women in STEM, but like I said, we'll touch on this later. And I also want to emphasize the importance of mentoring someone else. I always think that because we're in our first, second, third years, we may not be old enough or have enough experience to mentor someone else, but I have a mentor, her name's Evie, and even though I don't have the whole world of experience to share, having someone that's just that little bit above you is so helpful. So I'd really push you guys, even if you don't think you might not have enough experience, to go out and help somebody else. And it's not even help, but be that other role model that you are looking for. There we go.
So Rory, what motivates you to pursue a career in STEM, and do you have any role models or mentors?
Thank you for the question, Rachel. For me, having good role models have been very motivating to help me decide on going into a career in STEM. Because when I was growing up, I've always been kind of good at science and mathematics, but I never really seriously considered it ever as a proper career choice for my future. Because when I thought of engineers and scientists and mathematicians, everyone I thought of were always men. There was never any female mathematicians that I learned about in school or that were ever talked about. So I was also kind of discouraged by this because I didn't really think I would fit into the mold of a mathematician in the future. And then when I went into secondary school, my teachers were always saying to me, because I took technology classes and maths classes in school, they were always telling me, are you sure you don't want to do arts instead since you're a girl? Which was very demotivating for me. But I was incredibly lucky to then later on be surrounded by really good role models, both people I know personally in my life and more famous mathematicians that I could choose to look up to. So one of the more famous mathematicians that I look up to a lot and that I find really inspiring is Katherine Johnson. She's known for being a pioneer for the American space history. She did all the mathematical calculations that helped take the first Americans to space and also landed men on moon. She's still not very famous. I think she only started being talked about 10 years ago, which I think is incredibly sad since she's been doing great work for NASA for over 30 years. But I look up to her a lot because I find it incredibly impressive and inspiring that how she, as a female African-American in the 1960s, she fought so hard to be heard and to be in the same room as all the men when it came to science. And I think it shows that if you battle sexism and shoot for the moon, literally in her case, you can achieve such great things. And it's also really helped for me to have some role models in my personal life that I can talk to. So 2 female mathematicians that I look up to a lot is my old calculus professor at the University of Oslo, because that was the first time I really saw a female mathematician in a professional setting. And it changed the way I looked at both myself and my potential in the future. So up until this point, I'd actually written my entire UCAS application to apply for classics. But after my first class with her as a female professor, I changed my entire application and applied for mathematics instead. And now at the university, I've been really lucky to be supported by a great female personal tutor who's really shown me that anything is possible as a female in math.
Just to add to this, I also see role models in other female undergraduates, friends in our course taking initiative, asking questions, older undergraduates, and of course all of you guys. We're all in similar positions with both similar and different experiences, so we can really learn from each other and grow together. I think an example that quickly comes to mind is one of my friends in the year above. She's leading a really exciting engineering Hyperloop transportation project, and she is a complete inspiration. Her belief in me and encouragement persuaded me to have a go and become the sub-team leader, even when initially I wasn't going to, which was really nice, and I'm enjoying it. So I'm glad I listened to her. I think it's brilliant to have role models and mentors with lots of experience in leading companies to learn from, but it's always nice to remember that there can be people who really inspire you closer to home. like friends, family, or colleagues.
I think that's really beautiful, Anjali, and I think that's like especially what I'm trying to I think we all are trying to share with this event is that there are people around you who want you to succeed. I think that's a really beautiful message.
Eunice, what advice do you have to someone who doesn't feel like they got much experience on their CV?
As Phoebe touched on with the question on mentors, there's loads of programs out there that are like designed specifically for women in STEM. And a program that I'm part of is STEMettes, where they have the opportunity for you to get a mentor with someone in industry. So I have a mentor with someone that's working in BAE systems and someone working in Mercedes F1. So it's been really helpful for me to help with my decisions for which side of engineering I'd like to go to in the future. There are also other programs if you were worried about not getting an internship for this year, such as the Forage, and they have loads of internship opportunities with companies like GE, Red Bull, HSBC, and many others, where it will also give you an insight to what it's like to work not only with that company, but in the fields that you're interested in. I'll put the links to these two websites in the chat for you to have a look at.
I was just going to add to that. I think it's also really important to not, like, even if you've not got working experience and things like that, if you've been part of a sport or society and you can talk about teamwork when you've been playing hockey, or the organizational skills to be part of a band or orchestra, and really take what you've learned from the experiences you have had, and that's really what they want to see.
Definitely, I think especially when applying to the Female Undergraduate of the Year, I didn't have any experience. Most of my application was talking about my passion for aerospace engineering and also things I'd done at sixth form, like being a mental health ambassador, which is completely different to engineering, but there are so many transferable skills that would be helpful as becoming an engineer or any person in STEM.
No, completely. It's all about like what you do with your free time and how you make a difference. Like, what did you do over lockdown? Did you build a bench? Did you design a bookshelf? Did you do a course in Excel? I think we've all got so much time to play with, and it's how you're making a difference. And people just want to see your passion and your drive, and that will shine through no matter what. So thank you very much, Eunice. That was a really lovely answer.
Thank you. Anjali, how do you think companies can attract and retain women in STEM?
I think it's really important for companies to take initiative and encourage girls at school to pursue STEM subjects, because a lot of the decisions are made at early stages, such as GCSEs and A levels, which can really affect what you can pursue later on. When women are looking to be employed at these companies, they might be more likely to join these companies which take initiative as well, because it gives a chance to inspire the next generation of females in STEM. Personally, that's something I look for in a company that I'd like to join. Other initiatives like competitions, like the Female Undergraduate of the Year, scholarships or funding can really encourage undergraduate students. It really helped us to have a go and apply, and I gained a lot from the experience to have an insight into how the real world works and how a company functions, and I definitely learned a lot from it. Also, for women further in their career, it's important for companies to recognize a career gap in a CV to take care of a family as a really good thing. It means a lot of hard work, dedication, and sacrifices to take care of a family. And often it's that time or that age range where most of the growth happens in a career. I think I learned that from a book called Inferior by Anjali. It's a really good book, I recommend. But I think that's the kind of career growth that many women miss out on to take care of their family. So recognizing a career gap as something to be proud of would be a great motivation to encourage talented women to apply, who, if they're given the chance, they can prove again that they're truly brilliant. So that would be good.
Yeah, something I completely agree about, Anjali. And also on the addition to that, like once you get the women in your company, how are you going to retain them? What are you doing to make them feel welcome? Are you creating a safe space? Is there a women's network? How are you making them feel like they can be the best version of themselves without having to dull their shine or be a different person to fit in with mainly could be men in the room? I think that's something that companies need to focus on, and also that people are being more demanding about. I want to go to a company, I want to feel welcome, and I don't feel like I should have to dim my person, or, you know, not wear the brightest color or wear a flowy dress, or not that these are even the important things about how you feel in your mental health and your confidence. But that's something that companies to be aware of, that we now are demanding more and actually are entitled to exactly the same as everyone else in the room. So thank you very much, Anjali.
So a question for the audience. When do you think it's most impactful to inspire and attract the next generation in STEM?
I can see on the poll that, so we've got 41% of the answers say year 7 to 9, and I think you're so right. I think that's such an important age where you make all these decisions. You're choosing your GCSEs, maybe you're doing DT, maybe you're doing art, and you're expressing your creativity, but you also want that like maths and physics, and you want to be nurtured in that area and for it to align. And you make so many decisions beyond that, you know, slowly narrow down what you want to do. And I think it's so important to show the younger generation that actually there is opportunities, and it is exciting, and it's not just what your stereotypical person is. There's so much more diversity and scope. So thank you guys, I'm exactly right.
So Phoebe, do you think there needs to be a shift in where women put their value? Oh, you're muted.
So I think it's a good, that was still going to happen at one point, wasn't it? I think it's important to think about, as we're growing up, where are we taught that women's value is? Is it in our bodies? Is it in our minds? Is it the way we act? Is it the way we treat men? Is it the way we treat each other? Is it the way we treat the people who we look after? And actually, I think there needs to be a refocus and make it about you. It shouldn't be about how well you looked after your nan this Saturday, or it shouldn't be about how romantic you were for your boyfriend at Valentine's Day, who got on the biggest, I don't know, PS4, I don't know what it is that people get their boyfriends now, but it should actually be about what you enjoy and where you find your confidence. I know that you can talk about like dressing for the male gaze or appearing a certain way just to fit in, but actually it's how you feel comfortable and where you feel like your most authentic self. And I just think that the younger generation should really be aware of, like, you know, with the growth of social media and the value of maybe like looking good for a day, but really, are you happy inside? And what are you doing to nurture your soul? So something this has taught me a lot about is being in engineering. It's actually, you get your value from how you solve a problem, your achievement, your accomplishments through that. And I think if there's one message I would like from me for you guys to take home, it's that message of you are what you want yourself to be. And it's not a bad thing to want to dress up nice, but also know that your actions and the way you treat people also makes you your value. So yeah, thank you very much, Anjali. A little passion there.
No, really well answered.
Thanks. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add, but I think it's also something we can probably relate to. And also, so Rachel, what advice would you give to yourself this time last year at the beginning of university?
So I think the major point I give myself would be to have more self-belief, because I think that's something that I was really lacking, just because like it takes, I feel, opportunity or someone to say, like, to tell you, oh, you're really good at that, like, well done, for you to really start to see that worth, because I feel like we're always the most self-critical of ourselves, and other people are the ones who like feel accept if they say like, oh, that was really good. But for me personally, I just never really I don't know, thought myself worthy, especially of like the award of Female Undergraduate of the Year. Like I look around at like the other panelists here today and the other finalists, and I'm like, how on earth was I like considered to be among them? Like it's ridiculous. Because when I was doing the application, I was really just treating it as a practice application of, well, I'm in first year. No one really like gets anything from first year. I might as well just practice applying for internships and see what happens. And I really would just say to everyone, like, take every opportunity you get, because if you're not going to apply for it, someone else is going to, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to be less qualified than you. I'm not sure of the exact statistic, but there is some crazy statistic out there about how women need to apply for a job or a role or an internship. They need to tick like every criteria on that application before they apply. Whereas if a man was reading the application, he would maybe take, I think it's like 50% or something, and then he'd feel comfortable enough to apply. So I think it's just so important for us to all have more self-belief and see our positives. And I think where this stemmed for me from was the fact that I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And that was quite late on for me in school, so I hadn't had much support. Dyslexia and other neurodivergent conditions come still with a lot of stigma. And I think that's really something which needs to change, because what I've discovered about myself since my diagnosis is actually dyslexia has so many positives, and it's actually probably one of my biggest strengths, because I really feel that it helps me have far more creative solutions to problems. And in the psychometric tests, which you have to do for getting like an internship or a job, this creativity helps me answer the questions in a different way, and I think that can actually help me score higher. But one thing I would say is I've seen before on applications you can like tick a box to say, oh, do you have dyslexia? And I was always kind of apprehensive to do that, because I didn't want them to like see that as a bad thing or to disregard my application because of that. But I've started now ticking that box, and I've really found that it's made a difference, because I've found the companies have got back to me and be like, what support can we give you? Like, what would help you make the most of this like opportunity? So I'd really say go tick that box, because it's not going to do any harm whatsoever. And if anyone would like to reach out to me on LinkedIn to talk about this or anything else, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, I also agree with Rachel that you should not be afraid to disclose that you have any condition. I got diagnosed with dyslexia like just after my semester 1 exams of first year, and it was really helpful because even though I'd already done my exams without extra time, they were able to go through with me and like give like extenuating circumstances. So like and moving forward, the lecturers were able to understand how they can help me understand the material better. And I think it's something that if I had had when I was in sixth form and secondary school would have been really helpful, but I'm still very grateful that I received the diagnosis at university, because it's like Rachel said, definitely changed my mindset on how I view things. And I think to anyone out there, if you are thinking that maybe you have dyslexia or any other type of condition where you might need extra support, you should definitely talk to your university. Because when I spoke to my university, they were able to pay for my assessment for me. So I didn't have to pay anything. And you get a lot of support from the government as well. They can give you like a study skill support. You can get laptops and any other equipment that you might need to support you throughout your journey.
No, I completely agree. Thank you very much, Eunice and Rachel. And even to add to that, back to my first point about the diversity of thought, having a neurodivergent condition just adds to that whole spectrum of diversity. It doesn't have to be dyslexia. It could be autism. It could be ADD. It could even be some people who have neurodivergent conditions have anxiety. And I think there's another one, schizophrenia. Like all that umbrella of these things that makes you different and makes you approach problems differently, and take caution, approach things maybe with a front to back, then back to front, all that kind of thing. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. Great answers.
So Rory, how have you handled failure, and what did you do to get back up and continue forwards?
Thank you for the question, Rachel. I've always personally found that as a female, if I succeed in my course in mathematics, I kind of feel like a fraud and I'm just kind of pretending to be good. So a classic imposter syndrome. But if I fail in my course, I feel like I will never be good and I can never get back up and I should just quit. That's how I used to think, at least. In my first 12 years of school, I was terrified of failure. And I, of course, made mistakes because, I mean, I'm human and I didn't succeed all the time, but I never faced any severe setbacks in that time. And this made me a bit of a perfectionist. And I worried that no one would ever take me seriously if I failed. Again, a bit of that. I have made everyone believe that I'm good in maths. And if I fail, they will realize it was all pretend. I'm guessing there might be someone in the audience that kind of feeling the same way now. But in a way, I was lucky enough to face some pretty severe setbacks in year 13. Because that was the first time I properly failed at something in my life. I was rejected by 2 universities at the beginning of my UCAS application. One of them was my first choice for university. And then I realized I was chronically ill, so I missed about a quarter of my classes that year, which made that the grades I got at the end of the year, they were a lot lower than my predicted grades, and I missed both of my UCAS offers. And at this point, I was like, what do I do now? I've failed at maths. I will never get to do STEM in university. What do I do? But since I felt quite lost and I've lost all my motivation to study STEM, I tried something that I hadn't done before. I actually admitted that I'd failed and I admitted my fears to people around me. And I talked about how I was feeling, what to do next, because normally I would always hold this quite close to my heart because I was a bit ashamed of not succeeding. But then I realized that once I reached out to people around me, my family, my friends, my teachers, everyone was very supportive and it all helped me get back on track. And instead of just saying, oh, yeah, you failed at maths this one time, you should never continue with it, they said, oh, there's other ways to do it. So instead of just stopping STEM forever, I applied through the clearing and I'm studying mathematics and I'm super happy that I never gave up. So I think my best tips to give to everyone that is, if you face failures, it doesn't mean you are a failure, it just means you're human and you've done something everyone else is going to do at some point in life, because we're all going to have setbacks due to various reasons. Reach out to the people around you because they will all be very helpful and motivating and help you get back to where you were or find a different path. And also to keep in mind, it's a bit cliche, but rejection is redirection. There's always another way to reach your dreams, even if the first path you tried didn't work out.
Rory, that's hats off. That was an amazing answer. And I just think, well, that whole time, like, you, although like we are not in the same room or in the same place, like we are all your support network, and obviously I hope you know that, but we're all your support network. And what this event is really trying to do is let you guys know in the audience that even though you may be sitting in the room with us right now, we are all here for each other as women in STEM, and we want to lift you up, and we know exactly how you feel. We may not exactly, but we've definitely what Rory said there about if you don't get it right the first time, people are going to think you're a fraud. I mean, I can't count how many times I've even felt that today, setting up this here, but here we are. And like, I think that's what I want to share with you guys. And I think what we all want to share with you is that you're not alone. And these things you're feeling, just because nobody talks about them, starting to talk about them is going to be what's breaking that stigma and overcoming these things. And we're all going to start lifting each other up way more than we could even know. So thank you, Rory. Gorgeous. There you go. Let's move on.
Yeah, Eunice, how were you encouraged to get into STEM?
Well, I've always been interested in airplanes, but it wasn't until I was in year 9 or 10 where my teacher asked me what I wanted to do, and I explained that I like planes and I enjoyed DT and maths, and he suggested aerospace engineering. Like after that point, I hadn't really done anything else with that information until I found out about the air cadets, and that really confirmed that I wanted to do aerospace engineering at university, because I had so many opportunities to learn more about how aircraft work, and even had the opportunity to learn how to fly in an aircraft, and it just opened my eyes to the many things that you can do with a degree in STEM, not just like specifically being an aerospace engineer, but also other opportunities like becoming a pilot or working in air traffic control that I had never considered before.
I guess, Eunice, how did you know you wanted to do aerospace straight away? How come you didn't want to do mechanical and then specialize in aerospace later? Was that an easy decision for you?
There was some doubt on whether I should do mechanical engineering because at the time we thought that maybe it would open me up to more job opportunities if I did mechanical and then just apply to aerospace jobs. But I decided that either way, like the degrees are very similar, and most of the time the companies won't just, like if you have an aerospace degree and you're applying for like a mechanical job, they're not just going to reject you because at least for the first 2 years, the content is the same. And I thought that I would probably put more effort into a degree if I know I 100% want to do it. So it didn't matter if maybe I'd learned about the aerodynamics of a plane. I could easily apply that to a job where I have to study the aerodynamics of a car or a bike or a train. So there's loads of transferable skills in between both engineering degrees.
Really cool. Thank you very much, Eunice.
So a question for the audience: how were all of you encouraged to get into STEM?
Let's go. So on the polls, we've got 46% of people have said natural path or result of chosen subject, which I think is really interesting because it shows how much in all of us there's this innate skill set of what we do. And actually, although second to is role models around you, inspirational teachers, and then final is STEM outreach events. I think it's so interesting how all of us have this like desire in us to do these things and do them well, and it's how we unlock that sense of ambition and drive in somebody. And I think that's really what school does. It takes your skills and teaches you and tells you that you can do it and that nobody can stand in your way. And I think that's really what this drive for women in STEM is about. It's telling people that they're powerful and they're capable and all these things to do it themselves, not having to be a fraud about who you are, because all these people clearly have natural drive to do it. So, Anjali, how did you gain the confidence to push yourself out of your comfort zone?
That's a really good question. We often try to wait until we're perfect before doing something, but sometimes it's good just to have a go. I think that really builds confidence. Like Rachel was saying earlier, in general, men apply to jobs when they have around 50 or 60% of the requirements asked for in the job description, but women tend to apply when they have all 100%. So having a go when the opportunities come before you think you're ready can really help prove to yourself that you can do it. And even if it doesn't work out, you can learn from it and also build confidence, knowing that you just pushed yourself out of your comfort zone. Something I've learned recently is that you shouldn't wait until you're perfect. You're more ready than you know, and you should just have a go. A quote that comes to mind is one by the author of Winnie the Pooh. And it goes something like, you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you'll ever know. So I think if we all just keep that in mind and take opportunities as they come, that would be really good.
Thank you very much, Anjali. And also, like, just to add to that, I think it's something that you inside of you, you'll look back at something you've done, something really hard. Maybe all of us will look back at today and like, oh God, what is that? And before, I definitely didn't think I could have. So I think you don't know how confident and strong you are until you look back and realize what you not only have been through, but how you acted when you handled these situations that could have been quite stressful at the time. So thank you very much, Anjali.
Yeah, if you overcome your fears, you feel unstoppable. So
Definitely.
Another question for the audience: are you interested in applying for an internship or placement year?
And on the polls, it says so 81%, 82% of people have said yes, they're interested in applying for a placement this September. So let's move on to the next question and see.
Phoebe, what are your tips for applying to internships and year-end industry placements? What are the benefits?
Thank you very much, Anjali. And I can see also there's a question on here from Rihanna, sorry about if I get that wrong, also talking about placements. So I'll just give a little quick overview of what I've been up to, and then how I got there, and a bit of advice for you guys. So right now I'm on my year in industry placement at RGB, which is a energy generation company. And some general advice for internships or placements for a first year undergrad who doesn't have as much experience. Well, I think kind of tying back to the question we asked Eunice earlier about what to do if you don't have a lot on your CV, I think it's taking part in those online courses, maybe building something in your own time, taking experience that you've got from school, your sports, your teams, maybe a position of responsibility you had, and taking that and seeing what you learned, not emphasizing on the experience, but actually, did you gain teamwork skills? Did you gain analytical skills? Did you gain problem solving skills? I'm writing about that because that's what people who are looking for the jobs to hire you want to see. They want to see what you've done, but how you've grown from it and how you've changed. And I think that's the most inspiring part. So don't worry about if you haven't had a summer or a year-long placement and then applying to another job. It's actually about your appreciation for the skills and the technical aspects that you'll have to use in that job. So for my year in industry, I remember I had a spreadsheet with all the year industries I applied to down one column. And then I tick, for example, like, yes, sent off my CV, sent off a cover letter, waiting for a response. And then at the end, you might get an email being like inviting you back for a psychometric test. And if you do get into the point where you're applying for lots of things, you might get an email on a Wednesday saying deadlines in 3 days, and an email on Thursday saying deadline in 4 days. So using this table, I was able to tie in deadlines of dates where I had to do psychometric tests, which I found really useful to keep on top of myself and know when the deadlines are, but also know that if I missed one, which one was coming up next. And all of these are really learning experiences. So for advice for people who are applying for placement years, I would definitely say pick a couple and apply really thoroughly. You can tell which applications are blanket placements. If you're doing a cover letter, research the company, what they do, what part of the team you'll be in, because those are the things that are going to stand out and what really they're looking for. Someone who cares and someone who's intrigued and has genuine curiosity to be a part of the team. Also, when it comes to your CV, making slight alterations and including the keywords in the job advert, that is a huge thing, especially if they're using some kind of smart technology to read your CV. That's a big buzzword. And I guess finally, prepare, learn. If you get an interview for the assessment day, bring your most bubbly self. I mean, all five of us have been on assessment days together, and it's so hard when you're competing against people, obviously like everyone here with me today. But at the end of the day, it's all about being your authentic self, and if you fit the bill, you'll fit the bill, and they will see that. And just you've only got a day to show everything about yourself that's the best, so really just try your hardest. And I guess that is the end of my question. So
Can I add into that, really? I was just going to add, I remember in an interview I had once, they asked about why are you interested in engineering? And the guy really liked my response because it was just so different. And it links back to if you're not sure about what to write in your application, write about something you're passionate about, even if it seems totally off topic and slightly random, even if it's a really small thing. Because if you can show your passion for something and they can see that you're genuinely interested and it's not just a copied CV and application from one internship to another. So in my interview, they asked me about why I was interested in engineering. And I was like, well, when I was a little kid, I would always play with pens, and I would always take them apart. And as a little kid, I was amazed at how many different designs of pens there were. And that seems like such a stupid little thing, but it was genuinely something I found really interesting. As a 5-6-year-old, and I think that's genuinely where it all stems from, and they really do if you're just genuine like that. So I'd really recommend that.
Well, thank you very much, Rachel. Yeah, no, I say I would completely agree. Like, just always being younger and pulling things apart and just wanting to understand how things work. I remember looking at ski lifts and thinking, how on earth do they work? They go around so fast, but so slow at the bottom. And I think that's just kind of natural curiosity is really what gets you going and gets you asking these questions. So I guess now we've reached the end of our question or open discussion, and I would like to move on to the Q&A part. So I think Eunice is going to take Freya's question.
I did consider applying for degree apprenticeships when I was like thinking about what I wanted to do at university, but unfortunately for me, they also had pretty high like the grade requirements were pretty much the same as for going to university. So I just decided to apply for only university courses because I thought that a degree apprenticeship or an apprenticeship would be more competitive. So I thought that I'd have a better chance if I applied straight away to university. But I know, especially since from when I applied to university, there's so many more companies that are coming out with degree apprenticeships and apprenticeship schemes, and they're taking a wider cohort of students than what was available when I was applying for university like 3 years ago. So if it's something that you're interested in, if you don't think that university is the right path for you, then you shouldn't be discouraged from applying. And I definitely think that going to talks like this and like doing online courses will definitely give you an insight into what companies are looking for, and it will give you like an advantage when making your applications.
Thank you very much, Eunice. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And Rory, would you like to answer Stephanie's question?
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. So Stephanie asked about if volunteer work helps an application and what type. And in my experience, volunteering has been a essential part of my applications and CVs, because I think as most of us, we kind of struggle to get that first piece of work experience. So I started by volunteering, and I've done lots of different types of volunteering. So I've been a part of Red Cross Peace Corps, which has always looked very good on applications, even if I haven't done anything pretty much more serious than being like first aid on sports events. But it still gives you something to talk about in job interviews. It gives you transferable skills that you can show to the employers. And also it shows that you're willing to do something to consistently try to improve yourself and get more experience, even if you don't get any money back for it, which shows again that passion, which is so important when you're applying for jobs. And I do think that any kind of volunteering will be effective when you're applying for jobs, because it just shows that you're interested in something. You do more than just sitting and watching television, for example, and it gives you something to talk about in job interviews. And I think, Phoebe, you wanted to add something to this as well?
Yes, please. So in lockdown, I was part of a charity called Action Tutoring, which does volunteering for kids in underprivileged schools. So how it works is you volunteer to do maths or English, and you can do like year 6 and year 11, and you go in and you spend an hour with each kid, one child per week, and just spend time with them, understanding maths, maybe a bit of English. I mean, I did maths, but I think that's also a really good way to not only build up your CV, but do something good. And we're so lucky to all have a passion for science and maths, and it's our little, I always think it's a bit of a gift to be able to share that. And also by doing these things and volunteering, you're showing an employer that you're committed, you can get the job done, you're motivated on your own back, off your own, what's the phrase for this, but like you're motivated by your own self to do these things. And I think that's what an employer wants to see. Say you've volunteered for 6 months, you've shown up every day for 6 months. That's a really desirable thing that you can't really say by saying you committed to a Netflix series. So I think that's a really important thing to think about when considering the importance of volunteering. And Rachel, would you like to do Kumena's question next, please?
Yes. So the question was, what do you think women of the future can do to make a difference to workplace attitudes towards women in STEM? I think that's a really interesting question. Personally, I feel very strongly about taking part in outreach projects. So I do a lot of that at the moment, where I just go into a school each week, different year groups, just giving them talks on STEM, just to try and get them before they've chosen their subject, so that they are interested in STEM. And then by doing that, we're going to have more women in the workplace, so it will seem more normal. And I think we're already going towards that. Definitely in some industries. I know at the University of Sheffield, the bioengineering degree is a 50-50 male to female, which I think is just amazing. And we're slowly getting there in all the different disciplines. So I think really for women of the future, which is us, we just need to keep having this open conversation and being honest with ourselves and believing in ourselves and seeing our own worth. And if we do that, then people will respect us and we will get what we deserve, and that is the respect of just like anyone else would have.
Thank you very much, Rachel. It's a lovely answer. I'm going to take Katie's question next. So it says, what do you hope to achieve in the next 5 years? The big one. So right now I'm in my year in industry placement, and the next year I'll hopefully be doing a master's in mechanical engineering as well. And then after this, I hope to go back to do a grad scheme, hopefully at Rolls-Royce, but that's where I did my summer internship last year. So they kind of like, there's a more of a feed through with that. But if I don't, I definitely want to do a grad scheme in engineering. I think kind of what we touched on, there are so many transferable skills in STEM, and you know, people ask me like, oh, like maybe business, maybe finance, but I think that there's something quite beautiful about STEM, and it's engaging. You can see the problem, you can touch it, and you can overcome it, and that kind of thing where you can work so hard and see something at the end of it. And to me, that's what I want to do with my career. So grad scheme after that. I'd love to squeeze a bit of traveling in there and doing more stuff like this. This stuff makes me happy. I think I always kind of have the bit of debate in my head whether I enjoy STEM or do I enjoy doing stuff like this and connecting with new people and understanding other people's challenges and how they've overcome them and using that to motivate each other. To me, that's part of STEM which I enjoy with a passion, and to me that's another reason to keep going, is to make space and connect with people like you in the audience. So that's that answer. And Anjali, would you like to do Rihanna's question next, please?
Yeah, okay. It's a really nice question. So how do you overcome the fear of making yourself heard and your ideas known in a male-dominated field? And how do you stand your ground instead of letting others talk you down or out of something? I think something really important first is to have self-belief in yourself, because when you're motivated and have the enthusiasm about what you know and what you're talented at, then you can make yourself heard. And then the next hurdle to overcome is to make yourself heard. And that's really what's really important, is to stand your ground and have others there if you can to support you. But on your own, you're also very powerful. You just have to believe it. And it all comes back to having the confidence and getting out of your comfort zone. For example, if there's a meeting and you have a new idea, no matter what your doubts are about this idea, just have a go and make yourself known. Say that you have this idea, because it doesn't matter if you have doubts about it. You should just go for it. I think a lot of the time we have little ideas pop up in our head, and we're like, oh no, but I don't really know what to say. I don't know how to phrase this. I'm not really sure what I should do. But ignore those tiny thoughts in your head and just go for it, because 9 times out of 10 you'll be right.
And isn't it the whole, I think it might be a quote that's like, get knocked down 7 times, get up 9, or, that's always get up at the end, because people remember the times you get up. And Rachel, would you please like to take Amelia's question?
Yes, absolutely. So Amelia has asked, do you think social media presence is important in getting placement jobs? So I would say absolutely. The more and more applications I've done, the more they've asked for actually the link to my LinkedIn profile, which I think is really interesting. And I think it's really important to make sure that profile is not only very honest, but also like it's seen as like reasonably active, so that you're commenting on other people's posts, you're liking other posts, and it's not just there as this like copy of your CV online. So yeah, I would say it's definitely important. Try and make your LinkedIn like as personal to you and as interesting as possible. Make sure you've got a good image on there. That's really important. And make sure like what you're commenting on other people's is like really nice and appropriate. In terms of like other social media platforms, I think it's really important to make sure like for like the more social ones, like I don't know, Instagram, and make sure that the presence you're portraying is something the company would be pleased to see, and see that there's nothing that is worrying. So they'll definitely be searching everyone up online when they get your CV, just to see what pops up, just in case. So just maybe, I know it sounds a bit cringy, but do a Google search of yourself, see what comes up, and see if that's something you would like the company to see. And if it isn't, see if there's a way you can change that presence.
Thank you very much. And Anjali, would you like to take the next one from Evie?
Okay. So Evie's asked, have you found it difficult being a woman on your university courses? So personally, I think it's been quite nice doing something a little bit different. So I'm doing material science and engineering, and actually it's surprising and something to be really proud of that our course is in almost 50-50. So it comes back to having role models in my course that I look up to. But also in other courses and in general at university, you can really tell, for example, in the engineering project, that there is a lack of females. There is definitely. And I don't think it's something to hinder, but something to grow on, because I guess there are sometimes obstacles where maybe you think that that your voice is not heard, but what you can do is be strong and make sure that everyone knows what you want to say and what you want to do. And I think also it's quite empowering to be there and be the female who's saying, okay, I want to be a student ambassador and inspire these primary school students to do STEM. Come on, we need some more females coming over here. And also, like I was saying with the engineering project, there are female leaders at university, in courses. You just need to hunt for them, and they're there. And I think that's really nice. So I wouldn't say I found it difficult being a woman on my university course personally. There are definitely obstacles, but I also think I really enjoy it. And does anyone else want to add to it?
Yeah, I definitely do. Thank you very much, Anjali. I think also, like, I've had people come up to the street and be like, Phoebe, are you in engineering? I'm like, oh my god, yeah, who are you? And I'm like, I'm in your same course. I'm like, I had no idea. Just because, you naturally stand out. And I think, as Rachel said earlier, I think that's such a beautiful thing, isn't it, to capitalize on. I mean, being the only girl does definitely have its pros and cons. Like, sometimes I get guys come up to you a bit, like, maybe dumbing me down a bit, being like, oh, Phoebe, like, do you want some help with the maths work? Like, do you want to have some one-on-one tutoring? I'm like, no, like, I don't want to see you. But also, I think that's, you got to take it sometimes in a positive way, because they are looking out for you. And as that kind of maybe person who's of a different demographic in the room, people want to make sure you're included, and they want to bring you into the circle. They don't want you sitting out by yourself. So I think, even though it does sometimes come with it's like, no, actually I can do this by myself. Why? What made you think I couldn't? But at the same time, I know it comes from a good place, and everyone around in the university is really aware that, like, more women do need to be in engineering and to support each other. And like I said, we're all a network, but obviously people who aren't just women want to be a network too. So thank you very much, Anjali. Eunice, would you please like to take the next question from Stephanie?
Stephanie asked, how do you get over a bad grade? I think, like Rory mentioned earlier, you just, the best thing to do is to ask for help. So usually, if after going through like the paper myself, I'm not able to identify my mistakes, I'll either ask a friend or like send an email to the lecturer to arrange like a quick Teams meeting where we can go through the questions together. And it's really helpful because it reaffirms your understanding of the topic. And usually I found that when you've got something wrong, you'll be more conscious next time and you probably won't make like the same mistake again. So I definitely recommend asking for help either from a friend or ideally your lecturers.
And just to add to Stephanie's question about the bad grade, sometimes I think it's important to not take a bad grade too seriously, but instead see it as a learning process and see something you can. If you messed up something one time, you probably won't make the same mistake again, so you can learn from it. And then the most important thing is to not let it drag you down, because if it keeps dragging you down, you will struggle furthermore in your next university coursework or your next exams that normally you wouldn't have any trouble with. So I kind of want to tie in this question from Stephanie with a question we just got from Faith about struggling with failure, because failure is something that we will all face at some point in our lives, some sadly more than others. And I think the most important thing is, again, we need to kind of take a step back from the failure and not see failure affecting us as us personally being a failure. Because just because something goes difficult in our life or something goes wrong, that doesn't reflect badly on us as a person. Even if it was our mistake and we did something wrong, again, it's just because we're human and it's something we can learn from. So normally how I struggle with failure is to take that step back, look at the situation as a whole, and see first, like, take the emotional effect of it and try to like calm down, because normally it can be quite scary and a bit of a shock to like face failure or a bad grade. But then after taking that and taking the time to calm down, looking at what can be done from it, because even if you fail, no matter how far you fall, there's always a way back up again, and you can always get back to your dream, no matter if you have to take a different path. At worst, it might take a bit longer than what you normally wanted. There's always a backup for you. I will use an example that is not my own, but a family member. I had a family member who failed the same exam 7 times. It was French, I think. They failed exam 7 times, and they could not get into the university course of their choice before they could pass that French exam. But even if after the 6th time and the 7th time of failing, they never gave up. They kept studying, they kept working at it, and then finally they passed. And even if it took about 3.5 years of finally getting that qualification, they are now currently working their dream job. So there's always a backup. You just have to keep working on it. Ask for help, ask for support. For example, in my case, I have a chronic illness. So I have asked the university for support in case I fail. And it's been very helpful to have that network around me to keep supporting me. And you can always get back up again.
Thank you very much, Rory. Yeah, I completely agree. It's like all these things, it's a learning experience and it's what you do to overcome it the next time. And Rachel, please may you take Hannah's question.
Yeah, so Hannah has asked, what do you do if you don't tend to perform the best in exams? So I can definitely relate to this. Like, I find exams quite stressful, as I'm sure most people do, and I often have like a mind blank in the moment. It's like, I knew this before going into the exam. Why am I forgetting it now? And I would really just say that you definitely can learn to take exams, and it's just about repetition. Just like set yourself mini exams to do in the lead up to it, so that it's really like in the exam environment, so that you're used to being under that pressure with a clock ticking down next to you. Try and make it even more pressurizing than it would actually be, just so that you get used to that. And if you're always doing like your revision under time conditions and trying not to look at your notes, I think that would really, really help. But don't put too much pressure on yourself, because I really found that, like, one of my lecturers said this to me, and I thought it was so true. Like, the majority of students, when they leave university, get a first or two wrong, and the majority of companies are looking for students with a first or a 2-1. So like so long as like you do reasonably well, that's okay. But actually, because everyone's coming out with pretty similar grades, all from good universities, that's not really the key thing. What they're really looking at is what else you've done. So have you been part of societies? Have you done a sport? Have you done volunteering? All of these things, and that's really what's going to set you apart far more. So really the grades in some way don't matter quite as much as the pressure we've been trained to put on them. So I'd really keep that at the forefront of mind.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I love that answer. I think it's so true. And that's like in some reason why we're all here, because we want to do something outside of our education to make a difference and make an impact. And one last thing before we wrap it up for today, I'd just like to go around and ask each of you guys, what are you going to do to make a difference for the space of women in STEM? So for example, tomorrow I'm going to a school and doing an outreach event with a school in Swindon. We're building wind turbines from cardboard. I am nervous. What about, should we go Rachel first and then down to Eunice?
Yes, thanks, Phoebe. So yeah, for me, as I said earlier, outreach projects. I do lots of them. Some with the women in engineering, some which are based more on going to the private schools and doing like one-on-one support, where you can really just help like this one child and like see them progress. It's so rewarding. And I remember one little girl, she was like, how can I be like you? And like as a 5-year-old saying that to you, it's just the absolute sweetest thing, because like as a 5-year-old, she didn't understand how the education system works, or even that what she said was so sweet. So I'd really just say, yeah, outreach projects are really the way to go.
Eunice, what about you? What are you doing to create a better space for women in STEM?
Well, I'm a student advocate at my university. So there's like several opportunities to help people who's doing their A levels, like go to primary schools. We've got an open for year 13s to come in, where we can like talk more about our degrees, show them what life will be like on campus.
Cool. Thank you very much, Eunice. Yeah, I think that's so cool. And also I like how it's not specifically aimed at women, but everyone. I think that's very important to obviously like there are so many different things that people struggle with differently, and to encompass all of society is really important. Anjali, what about you?
So like Eunice, I take part in outreach projects, but something that's really exciting that I started just on Saturday was tutoring a 6-year-old who's really brilliant at maths for her age. So she finds it too easy for her in year 1. So we're slowly moving to year 2 and a bit higher. So I think I really like that. I love the fact that at her age she already knows what she wants to do, like that she wants to be brilliant at maths, and I hope to help her out with that, and hopefully a few others as well, and just not just females in STEM, but everyone from any background should be able to take STEM and should be able to have the opportunity to pursue STEM. So that's something I'd love to help with.
And finally, Rory, what about you? What are you doing? What are you up to?
I'm currently part of the School of Mathematics Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Committee at Cardiff Uni. So we're currently working with female mathematicians at other universities all over Europe, and we're creating some EDI like webinars where these female mathematicians can present their work to the students at Cardiff University and showcase what women in STEM get up to around the world. And I'm also currently running for Women's Officer at a university, and I'm hoping to make it a better space for all female students, not only STEM, but just in general.
That is the coolest thing I've ever heard. Well, that's so cool, Rory. And yeah, just if any of you guys watching today would like to reach out to us on LinkedIn, all our inboxes are completely open. If you want to, I'm sure everyone will be happy here to mentor every single one of you in the audience. So if you're looking for somebody just for occasional advice with once a week, or I'm offering out everyone's services without the consent, but what I'm trying to say is we all would love to help everybody here, not help, but just create space for, and that's the aim of the game. So thank you for coming today. It's been a really lovely event, and thank you to my panel for being such amazing panelists, and I hope we all keep in touch.